There's an old saying in boxing, you're only as good as your last fight. And it's really testament to how reactionary boxing fans tend to be and how their perceptions of a particular fighter can completely change in terms of how good or how vulnerable they think the fighter is. Their perception can completely change literally overnight on the evidence of one fight. So before the fight, the guy's the real deal. He's the truth. After the fight, he's a hype job, and vice versa. Before the fight, he's rubbish. After the fight, he's amazing. That is how reactionary boxing fans can be. Hence the adage, you're only as good as your last fight. And an example of this would be the perception that David Haye had of Tyson Fury, because that changed overnight. At one point, David Haye flat out refused to even entertain the possibility of fighting Tyson Fury. Some of you may remember that, when Haye said, no, there's no point fighting him. He's no good anyway. I'm not going to face this guy, blah, blah, blah. Then Tyson Fury fought Steve Cunningham, got dropped in that fight and looked bad. All of a sudden, David Haye pulled out of his fight against Manuel Charr and declared that he was fighting Tyson Fury. So Fury went from being a fighter who David Haye was actively avoiding to being his first choice opponent overnight. Now, the heavyweight division, more so than any other division, has this scenario happening most regularly. Because heavyweight boxing is a lot more dramatic than boxing at lower weights, because these guys are so big and they're slinging around such heavy punches that strange things can and do happen in heavyweight boxing more so than in other divisions. This is why I'm so non-committal, and I've been so non-committal over the past couple years in terms of saying who I think the best heavyweight in the world is. I've been very consistent in saying I don't know who's the best out of the top heavyweights. I don't know. We need to see them all fight each other and then we'll find out. Because most people seem to be nailing their colors to a particular mast early. You had the AJ fans say, no, AJ's the best, nobody's going to beat him. You got the Wilder fans saying he's the best, nobody's going to beat him. And of course, you got the Fury fans saying he's the best, nobody's going to beat him. But through experience, having watched several other eras, golden eras of heavyweight boxing, I know that it's far too early to be saying this guy is definitely the best and he beats everybody. Because heavyweight boxing is far too unpredictable for all that. I mean, you've got Tyson Fury, who's only ever had 2 world title fights in his whole career. I need to see a lot more of him. I need to see him against, different styles, other top contenders, before I'm going to be as convinced about him as most of his fans are. Same thing for Deontay Wilder. I need to see him in against more top contenders before I'm going to be as convinced about him as most of his fans are. Now, as far as Anthony Joshua, well, we don't even need to say that about him because he just got splattered by Andy Ruiz. So obviously, I wasn't as convinced about AJ as most of his fans were before the Ruiz fight. So I'm definitely not going to be as convinced about him as they were after the fight. I always said he was a top fighter, but I never came out and said AJ's the best heavyweight, he's going to beat everybody. No, I said AJ's going to lose. I made a video earlier this year talking about the Forbes magazine article where that journalist was predicting AJ was going to lose in 2019. And I said, you know what? I think there's a very good chance that AJ loses to somebody outside the top 3. Again, because I know history repeats itself. Yeah, AJ hadn't fought nobody like Fury, hadn't fought nobody like Wilder, hadn't fought nobody like Andy Ruiz. Yeah, hasn't fought nobody like Luis Ortiz. So there's all to play for in the heavyweight division right now. That's the way I see it. There's all to play for. The idea that it's all been decided and we've got the top two now and that's it. You got Wilder and Fury and nobody else gets a look in. I think you are extremely short-sighted if that's how you believe it is right now. We are going to see more frills and spills, more upsets, more surprises in the heavyweight division over the next couple years. If you think it's just going to be this two-horse race between Fury and Wilder, you are going to be badly, badly mistaken. I told you already before that at least one of the top three was going to lose in a major upset. I was proven right with AJ being taken out by Ruiz. I'm telling you again, at least another one of the top two is going to lose in a major upset. And the other one is going to lose, let's say it's Wilder who loses in a major upset. Fury is going to end up losing too, even if it's not in a major upset, even if it's against someone who, he might be a marginal favorite over. He's going to lose too. All these guys are going to lose. Do not for a second get that twisted in your mind and think these guys are not all going to lose. They're all going to lose. The only way that Wilder or Fury are going to get out of this without losing is if they avoid facing top contenders and choose their fights extremely carefully. But if they actually are going in there facing top contenders, they're eventually going to lose. It's going to happen. There's too much danger men in the heavyweight division in this particular era for these guys to be going unbeaten. Wilder at the moment seems is going to be fighting tougher opposition than Fury because Wilder's fighting Ortiz again, Kalnacki, whereas Fury is going down the path of, Puddins, Schwartz. Later on in the year, they're talking about Cha. So you'd imagine there's less chance of Fury coming unstuck than Wilder right now because Wilder's taking on tougher people. But still, if Fury manages to pick up a belt, is he going to hold on to the belt? See, that's the thing I talked about long ago. The fact that Tyson Fury is rejecting belts and instead going with this lineal thing, it gives him carte blanche to pick puddings, to cherry pick puddings. Because if he's got a WBC belt or an IBF or WBO or WBA belt, he's going to be forced to face mandatory challengers. Legitimate fighters can, work their way up to a mandatory position and force themselves into a fight with Fury if he had a belt. But because he don't have a belt, he can get away with, without having to do that. So, yeah, if there's anyone who might get away with, without taking a loss due to crafty matchmaking, it could be Tyson Fury. But if he's taken on, and look, he's going to take on a good opponent in Deontay Wilder in a rematch. But again, that's like very selective. I'm going to fight Wilder, but anything outside of Wilder, which is a big fight, I'm not going to fight any of these dangerous contenders out here. I'm just going to go for Wilder every time. That's crafty matchmaking. Yeah. In boxing, particularly heavyweight boxing, it's a numbers game. It's the law of averages. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But as I say, if Tyson Fury fights a lot of top contenders out there as well as Wilder, he's going to lose. Wilder's going to lose. All these guys are going to lose. I'm telling you now. History repeats itself. So, the perceptions that people have right now of Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury are going to change dramatically over the next couple years. You're going to see. People's perceptions of these fighters are going to be turned on their heads. I mean, the perception that people have had of Tyson Fury has changed dramatically over the years. Now, obviously, Fury has always had his fanboys, and fanboys of any fighter, be it AJ, be it Wilder, be it Fury, or whoever, the fanboys are always going to claim that their fighter can walk on water, irrespective of what's happening in their career. But anybody who is objective, looking at Tyson Fury earlier on in his career, how many objective people who were not, Fury fanboys would have looked at Fury after the first McDermott fight and said, that's a future great. That's a future world champion who's going to dominate Klitschko. Or the McDermott rematch. Or the Nevin Pikage fight. Or the Steve Cunningham fight. How many objective people, all right, people who are not just in love with Fury because they're fanboys. How many objective people looked at those fights and were still confident that this guy would go on to achieve all he's achieved so far? You know? The perception that people have had of Tyson Fury has understandably changed quite dramatically at several moments during his career. Yeah? He's a good example, actually. So, anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening out.
Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.